Hey folks, Ash here from BeingSwenglish, and can you believe this channel is almost at 1,000 subscribers? I feel so proud when this channel just started as charting my little journey from moving from the UK to Sweden. And I thank each and every one of you for watching, subscribing, clicking the thumbs up, even clicking the thumbs down. I really genuinely appreciate it. Anyway, let's talk about COVID. As if we've not talked enough about it in the press and media. And I just thought I'd give a bit of an update really from a British perspective, living in Sweden, another country in Europe, and to see, really to provide you guys with an inside view of how things are looking over here. So as we stand at the moment, people are generally getting on with life. It's nothing like how my friends and family in the UK are talking about their struggles and, socially how things are, really hard work because the kids can't go to school, etc. The kids are in school here, and that's preschool and older kids as well. The schools are being very cautious, however. So if any kid coughs or has a bogey, they get sent home from school. You have to go and pick them up immediately. The teachers as well, if there's the slightest sign of sickness, they get COVID tested, and we get updates on our school app to tell us that, teacher got ill and tested and they're fine, so don't worry. So the schools are kind of going on as usual. In terms of bars and restaurants and socially, things are open, business as usual. Certainly from a restaurant and a bar perspective and shops. The bigger venues, like, for example, I wanted to go ice skating the other day. The ice skating rink is closed for adult lessons and for adult sessions, and yet they're still running kids sessions. I don't understand that. Other venues are also on limited hours. For example, bowling alleys, cinemas. They're allowed to open, but partially, not complete closed down like in the UK. So that's good because at least those businesses can still, still run, still take revenue and profit, and actually operate without folding and causing people to lose their jobs and livelihoods. So that's really good. There are some limits, however, in restaurants and bars. So, for example, every venue has to be closed at 8:30. So there's no question about it. They have to be shut, whether serving alcohol or not. That was introduced about a month ago, I think. Before that, they were allowed to open and serve alcohol until 8, but could then stay open just after that. But most of them closed anyway, just because they felt it wasn't worthwhile staying open. The other limits are tables. So only 4 people allowed to sit at any table. We went to a restaurant the other day with some little toddlers, and we had 5 people in total. And just even though we had a toddler with us, that classified as 5. So we had to unfortunately send one of the guys that was with us home. So 4 people at the tables. Also, they are very, very strict in terms of the measurements between tables. So we went to a bar, and before we sat down, the lovely lady in a bar in Malmö actually took her tape measure out and measured the distance between the tables. So they are really, really taking it seriously. That's the difference with Sweden and the UK. I'm sorry to make such sweeping stereotypes, but my experience of the UK and Sweden is that Swedes comply and follow the rules, Brits don't. And that's why Brits need laws to make them follow, these COVID laws. Whereas in Sweden, they have introduced some additional laws now, but they haven't really needed to enforce them at this point, as far as I'm aware. Besides that, people are just getting on with it. People are going to their jobs as well. People are being asked to work from home. I needed to travel to my customer site the other day. They said, we'd like you to travel if you can, but my company actually said no. So, all companies are treating this differently, and, people are just being responsible in general. There's been no news about vaccines. Now, I keep hearing in the UK news that people in the UK are being contacted to go and have vaccination or being invited to apply. I've heard absolutely nothing here. I'm 40 years old, really old, and I've heard nothing. And I don't believe, I know that people, friends and family here have been vaccinated now, but I think they've proactively gone and sought that rather than being contacted by the government. So I don't really know what to do there. I'm feeling a bit disconnected, and I feel that the Swedish government haven't really communicated this very clearly, or I've completely missed it. In terms of people, now attitudes are completely split here. I guess there's a similar attitude in the UK, although I think the UK are more towards the we're all going to die mentality. And in Sweden, it's about 50-50, the we're all going to die group versus the let's just get on with it and be careful group. It's very, very 50-50. I know people who fear that they're going to die if they leave their house. And I know people like me who happily leave their house because I don't want to end up being thoroughly depressed and miserable. But we're careful when we do. So, we are sitting far from people. We are following the regulations and the requirements. We're just getting on with life and, keeping our local businesses running. There's a great bar here. I go there probably every week, at least once a week for a drink or some food. And if I'm normally the only guy sat there, genuinely, I don't see my neighbours there. I saw my neighbours there one week, actually. That's the first time I've actually seen any of my nearby neighbours. And if we don't go and support local business, there won't be any local business. So, yeah, people really are in two camps here. We went to a birthday party the other day. It was the weirdest birthday party I've ever been to because, of course, we had to follow regulations. So we had the whole restaurant, separate tables, spaced, I think it's 2 meters apart. No one allowed to stand because you're not allowed to stand. That's the other thing. You have to be seated. And, it was kind of just, hey, over there, like, hi, how are you? It was so strange, but at least we could still do it, and it was lovely to see everybody and meet new friends. So that was nice. But this camp of two people, the odd thing is that regardless of which camp they're in, they still all send the kids to school every day. So although they fear that for their lives from stepping out of the house, they'll still happily put their kids in a school of, 50 to 100, maybe more kids. And kids carry it. They're not really affected by it unless they have underlying conditions, but they do carry it. So you put your kids into the school and those kids have been playing with other kids with their parents at home who've been socializing with other people. This plant's annoying. And yet, there are these attitudes. I've got neighbors here who won't leave their house. I've said, let's come over for a beer. No, not until the pandemic's over. It's not going to be over. This is life now, I'm afraid. This is probably how life looks for the foreseeable future. So that's why I'm glad that I'm firmly in the getting on with life but being responsible camp, because otherwise mental illness, depression, just being miserable, in general, and especially being an expat, an immigrant in a different country, it's essential to get out and meet people and talk to people, because otherwise you just go crazy, cabin fever, I think. There is also this belief that if you get vaccinated, then you're fine and you can just crack on with life. Well, no, because there are theories that there's no evidence that you don't carry it and spread it after you've been vaccinated. In fact, there was an article in the New York Times the other day that said that just because you've been vaccinated, it doesn't mean you should stop wearing a mask. Now, I'm a bit unsure about the mask thing because all the experts are giving different expert advice. But they say, the New York Times said that even though you've been vaccinated, you should still wear a mask because you can still carry it. And if you cough, you're going to still spread it. So, again, this vaccination, I worry that people are putting too much faith into this, that all of a sudden they'll be fine and immune and Iron Man or woman. But that's not the case. In terms of the spread and the volumes here, the press and media are still talking about cases. And I don't know why they're still talking about cases when they should be talking about deaths. Because deaths, you can't question. People die, there's no doubt about it. Whereas a case, it all comes down to testing. You don't test somebody unless they've gone for a test. You don't test someone unless they're ill. But I guarantee that there's a ton of people like me who I think I've had COVID. I've not been for a test, and so therefore I'm not part of the statistics that say, oh, there's an extra person there that had it. Whereas if you're dead, you're tested for COVID, fact. And so you can't argue with deaths, and yet they're still comparing cases between countries, which just is bizarre, especially when you also consider that countries are testing differently. They're using different tests as well. Some tests are more accurate than others. I can't imagine the third world countries are probably even testing properly because they just don't have the money or the resource to do it. So when you see these comparisons, I just don't understand it. When I look at World Meters, which is a really good website, which collates all the statistics from around the world about coronavirus, the daily deaths, the daily cases, that's really, really interesting because I always sort it by the deaths per million capita of the population. That's a good way of comparing it because Sweden's population is much smaller than some other countries. So you have to look at the per capita comparison. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if I look at Sweden, it used to be, I think it was number 8 and the UK was number 3. Sweden is now down to 26th place per capita deaths in the world. The UK is down to 8 now, 8th position. Now, we also have to bear in mind that even when somebody dies and I say, yes, they're tested for COVID, well, actually, in some countries, they're probably not bothering. And that's why countries such as China and other countries, poorer countries as well, which you just can't believe their statistics that are coming out because they're manipulated or they have sloppy processes. That's why they're not in the top 10. And that's why some of the countries in the top 10 you wouldn't expect to see there, probably because they're the most honest and competent countries. The UK and Sweden have 2 of the best healthcare systems in the world. And that's why they're probably in the top 10. Well, that's Sweden isn't anymore. Probably because some of the other countries just can't deny their statistics. In fact, Gibraltar and Czech Republic are now position 1 and 2, which is a big surprise. But what next? What happens next? Is there going to be a third wave? We just don't know. Germany just locked down again, I believe, and that's why the UK and all the markets today took a bit of a hit and are now in a negative red state. Will there be other variants? Probably. You know, this is a virus that's mutating, and it seems to be mutating very, very quickly. But ultimately, we have to get back to life at some point. And that's why Sweden, I'm so thankful to be here, because I have been able to live my life. I've been able to keep working and seeing people, seeing my friends and having a social life whilst still being careful, still being responsible and, you know, not coughing and spluttering over everybody. We're all keeping our distance, you know, and reality, I think, is that we have to accept that this could be our new life now. This could be life as we will know it moving forward. My worry is the impact on our children. I mean, look at the impact in the UK of the economy, education, social life, jobs, careers, depression, and suicide rates as well. You know, that can't go on. It can't continue. And this is why I've been really, really careful with my child. I saw the other day a mother and a small child, and the small child is wearing a mask. And I see parents talking to their kids about COVID and coronavirus. And I just don't want to say that word to my 3-4-year-old. I don't want him to grow up being paranoid and having OCD and worrying that if he touches something, he's going to get infected and die. I don't want my child growing up with that kind of mentality. I want him to be hygienic and responsible. And, you know, my mum always taught me to wash my hands after I've been to the toilet. And, you know, I want him to do that, but I don't want my child to grow up in this pandemic climate. So I've been really careful to distance him from that and make sure he washes his hands and make sure, you know, we use the hand wash, the alcohol wash, instead of just normally washing hands with soap, even though soap is shown to be a good antivirus. What's the technical term? I don't know. I've been talking for too long now. This is another almost 15-minute video. Sorry, folks. It used to be short videos on this channel, but I've got a lot to talk about. But I do think this is our new life. And I just want to see that the damage that we see in the UK to the economy doesn't happen here. And, you know, enough damage has been done across the world from this pandemic. And I think it is time that we accept that this is the new norm now. And we have to find a way of living with it. We have to find a way to adapt and, you know, not take the press and media as our source of, you know, what's actually happening. Look at the figures and, you know, a lot of this is common sense. Work it out for yourself. Look at the excess deaths for your country. You know, as I said in an early video, I looked at 2020, 12 months in Sweden at the deaths. And of those deaths, in my age group, between 40 to 45-year-olds, 65 people died. Now, that's 65 people that shouldn't have died, perhaps. But on the other hand, those 65 people, I haven't drilled into the statistics of that or the actual demographics of those 65 that died, but I would guarantee that they had pre-existing conditions. They were fat, they smoked, they ate unhealthily, they didn't live a healthy life, they had a serious underlying condition that was none of their fault, but unfortunately, COVID exaggerated that and caused their death. But regardless of a population of 10 million, that's 65 people aged between 40 to 45. And for me, I'm a healthy guy. I don't smoke. I don't drink excessively. I'm not fat. I'm not overweight. And I personally, common sense kicked in for me. And I said, I don't need to shelter away in my house because of this. And, the argument against that will be, well, what about the people you might spread it to? Well, those people at risk shouldn't be out. They shouldn't be socializing. They should be taking precautions. They should be careful. If you are genuinely in the risk group, and I don't mean you think you might be in the risk group, I mean you're 60 plus, you're obese, or you have a serious pre-existing condition, then yes, you should be bloody careful. And please do look after yourself. But if you're not in that risk group, then just get on with your life. And if you are going to visit older relatives, then take precautions, wear a mask, stay away from them. We went to see my partner's grandma, and we didn't touch her, we didn't hug her, we all wore a mask, and we were just very careful. But it's she's staying in because she is absolutely in risk group. And yet the other day in Ica, the supermarket here, I saw a guy who could barely walk, barely carry his shopping in Ica with no mask on. And I just wish his family would educate him or help him, or wish somebody would educate him that he is in the risk group and he shouldn't be out really. On the other hand, if I was 80, would I want to spend the last few years of my life hiding in my house and then dying of COVID? No, I'd probably want to get out there as well. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm not an expert. Please don't, if you want proper official professional advice, please go and seek it from your government resources. But I just think it's a really interesting topic. I don't know what's next. I really don't. But whatever happens, go forward as you feel fit, but don't judge other people. Let other people live their life and live through this pandemic the way they want to. And if you don't approve of that, fine. But, let's not see this as another diversive, horrible issue like Brexit, which divided families because of different opinions. So get on with your life, do what you want to do, respect, other people's views, and respect other people. Stay away from their personal space, because not everybody wants to cuddle or handshake anymore. So just make sure, you're acting in a way that doesn't upset or conflict them. Anyway, we're coming up for almost 20 minutes. I think it's time to shut up. And it's the end of my lunch break. I need to get back to work. Stay safe, folks, and comment below with your thoughts and hit subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Maybe this video will see us topple that mountain and head towards the big next milestone of 10,000. Imagine that. Wow. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.